Hi everybody, and welcome back to the channel. As many of you know, my main channel got deleted after a bit of, well, without going into too much detail, some unforeseen confrontations from advocators on the right. Despite that, Kinn returns. Hiff hiff hiff. Now, on to bigger business. Today's video is going to be a hybrid of sorts. We're aiming for a reaction and subsequent academic analysis of some troubling, to say the least, content that has been circulating around the interwebs for some time. I'm sure many of you already know where this is headed, but for those fortunate folks who don't, YouTube content creator Clownin Around, real alias undisclosed, best known for their raunchy, over-the-top animations and subsequent public outrage, has released another animated catastrophe ironically named Orb Humor. But before we dive into that dumpster fire, I'd like to thank today's sponsor, 2020 Roommate. Be sure to check them out at the link below. Now on to the main event.
Steven, get in here! What's going on?
So, what's the first thing we notice about this animation, besides the god-awful art style? That's right, men. 2 of them, to be exact. And what are these 2 men doing? Well, blaming a woman for their problems, that's what. Right from the get-go, main character Bill and his counterpart, Steven, standing as archetypes for white male patriarchy, are seen throwing their accusation toward the only female character, Tina. Specifically, Steven, and by association, Bill, called Tina weird.
Tina probably did it. She's weird, you know?
This one word works in 2 adjacent ways. It both perpetuates and continuously upholds gendered, misogynist values within the greater society in which this text is produced. Here, Clownin Around is suggesting a power dynamic that asserts the male characters above the female character, essentially placing men as possessors and women as the possessed. Keep this idea in mind as we move through this analytical breakdown. Tina, unfortunately, is doomed to remain powerless in the company of Bill and Steven. As author Lee R. Edwards in Psyche as Hero puts it, women who assert the slightest claim to power assume the statue of potential heroes because their assertion subverts the fundamental dialectic of power and submission that feeds society's dynamos. We see Tina making claims at subjectivity, mainly through an ownership over the act of knitting.
She knits.
However, this is a double-edged sword, for she is constantly identified first by her craft and second by her autonomy. With male characters diminishing her to a role rather than an individual, Tina, therefore, cannot make claim to powers which would in turn allow her to achieve the aforementioned subversion of societal norms and thus remain in a powerless position of objectivity. A shame, really, to not only allow your blatant misogyny to show, but to beat down an otherwise interesting character simply due to gender bias. Clownin Around doesn't reserve their male-centric gaze just for diminishing female characters. No. This creator always finds a way to take things a step further. Featured in the video is none other than Dracula himself. Now, I'm sure you're saying, Kinn, it's Dracula, one of the most beloved characters in all of horror. How could this buffoon possibly find a way to frick this up? Well, my friend Arunios, I'm glad you asked. Dracula's purpose, in short, is to serve as the other. And that's other with a capital O. Let me explain. Dracula is noticeably different. From his skin to his hair to the way he speaks, Clownin Around makes sure that there is no mistake about Dracula's blatant differences from the likes of Bill, Tina, and Steven. So what's the point of having a noticeably different character? Well, if you watch closely, Dracula is pushed around by Bill. So much so that Dracula begins to cry? How freaking messed up is that? But personal feelings aside, Dracula's raindrops signify a greater meaning in the scope of this text. Clownin Around, with Bill as his normal character and Dracula as his othered, has Bill gaslighting Dracula into thinking he's the problem when there are still clearly so many other factors that still need to be addressed. While Dracula is inherently powerless in this greater social construct, Clownin Around falsely repositions that power dynamic to create the illusion of Bill being the powerless one. In essence, Clownin Around is helping to reinforce the topical issues surrounding white victimhood in racial matters. How sickening. So now I think it's time we address the elephant, orb, in the room. Author Ursula K. Le Guin, in her publication Language of the Night, states that if you deny any affinity with any person or kind of person, if you declare it to be wholly different from yourself, you may hate it or deify it, but in either case you have denied its spiritual equality and its human reality. You have made it into a thing to which the only possible relationship is a power relationship. Bill, much like he did with our tragic hero, Tina, initially tries to denounce the subjectivity of the orb by relegating its existence to a point of objectivity. He cannot see past his own ignorances, which ultimately filter his perspective of his surrounding world. The binary surrounding main character Bill and the orb is one of push and pull. Neither can successfully operate without the other. Through a post-colonial lens, Bill signifies the colonizer, while the orb, possessing something of value to the dominant powers, becomes the colonized. But analysis of the orb doesn't stop there. This wouldn't be an orb discussion unless we also followed the crumbs of thought to, well, the bread. A reoccurring theme within this text is the imagery of bread. While I have seen a lot of theories circulating around the internet attempting to break through the crust and into the potential deeper meanings behind this mystery, allow me to offer you my own grain of thought. The ties between the orb and bread suggest a cyborg-like being, as proposed by Donna Haraway's A Cyborg Manifesto, where the signifiers for orb and bread are lost within fluidity of this new orb-bread hybrid character. The author fails to successfully acknowledge this fluidity, the queering of the orb and bread into the cyborg, by incessantly referring to them as the orb and denying the bread's inclusion within the character. This raises interesting questions about the author's true ideologies surrounding identity politics and values of gender normatives. A dismissal of new identities forming off the back of hybridity also suggests a dismissal of binary, non-conforming ideologies, which is a topic best saved for another video. Now, I might just be an animated fox on the internet, but even I understand the dangerous ideologies being bred and perpetuated throughout this video and other works by Clownin Around. I hope I have effectively illustrated why, exactly, this content is so damaging to individuals and why it shouldn't be allowed to exist on this platform. Honestly, I wish no ill will on Clownin Around. The opposite, actually. I truly hope he sees this video and really internalizes the critiques I've given and do some serious soul searching to internally figure out why he continuously makes content of this caliber. I want this world to be a better place. Each and every one of you, and that includes you, Clownin Around, have the capacity to make change for the better. As always, thanks for watching. If you liked this content and wish to support the channel, be sure to subscribe so you never miss a future video. Also, leaving a like will help our community grow. Leave a comment down below if you have any thoughts on this analysis, or if you have any ideas for future topics I should cover. Until next time, Kinn out.